Previously on the Game On podcast.
I can remember we didn't have a whole lot of success in our first year of under-17s, but as you said, the next year under-19s I sort of graduated, and Duncan Fosdyke was the captain,
Yes.
and we had probably 7 or 8 guys from that team play league footy, and probably had 4 or 5 premiership players in '82 from that team. Guys like Rick Neagle and Fozzie, and
Was Tomo through there as well? Was Greg Thomas through that one as well?
Greg Thomas was around, and Neil Pearson played some league footy, and Jack Gallagher played some league footy. Dean Renfrey played league footy.
And of course, Fozzie was a junior. Jason Archer could seriously play. Unfortunately,
he could.
Knee injuries there.
But
Fozzie dominated as a junior as well. Like he did win the 19s medal that year as well. So
yeah, I think Macca won the
17s,
17s medal that year, and Fozzie won the under-19. So we pretty dominant. We beat Port Adelaide in the grand final, which is always nice.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, once again joined with Malcolm in the studio, and Tommy Warhurst recounting some of his junior days at the Norwood Football Club. And like you said, it's amazing, those group of junior players, Macca, Duncan Fosdyke, Tommy Warhurst, all came up through the system together back in the day.
Yeah, it was a pretty strong era with the juniors at Norwood with 17s and 19s, and Winnie actually had a fair bit to do with that as well, 2-8. Who's actually Cornsy's guest. We've had on John ourselves. He's Cornsy's guest on Friday on and that's
Conversations,
yeah. And Winnie was involved there, and so you actually had that batch of David Payne, Duncan Fosdyke, Tom Warhurst, Rick Neagle, who all went through to become league premiership players. So it was a strong era of really good junior development as well.
Absolutely, and we've had most of them on the podcast so far. So
yeah, getting there through them all.
We are indeed. So if anyone wants to go back and listen to them, they can. We thank Tommy for his time for part 1 there. Part 2 coming up a little bit later today. So really looking forward to that.
And he lets out something which I didn't know about.
Yep.
About, let's say, Neil Curley and that. And it's very, very interesting.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we might actually save that little segment to the previously for next week as well. So can't wait to hear that. All right. Let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, as per usual, we're going to kick off with the SANFLW. Congratulations to South Adelaide on winning the premiership there. The SANFL, we're going to talk a little bit of the tennis. Obviously, Wimbledon's pretty topical at the moment, but like per usual, we got to start off with the AFL and the news that's just broken. Adam Simpson is no longer the coach of the West Coast Eagles.
It's a bit strange. So they had Tim Kelly up as their normal booked-in speaker this week for their conference and all that, and about 1 minute in, he got pulled. No, we're not going to do this now. And apparently he's sort of going, well, what have I done, sort of thing. But no, it's nothing to do with you. There's more happenings to come, and sure enough, it was. Look, it's not a huge surprise. Another year's contract to go. I'd like to know what the settlement details would be there. It's quite interesting. Because you don't get paid out in full. It's part negotiated and that sort of thing.
And that's changed with the AFL over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Which was interesting. Listening to a WA commentator, didn't know that on SEN today. It was a bit amusing. So it's a ruthless business. You can't sack 15 to 20 players immediately, but you can sack the coach. So,
Is it a case of breaking point? They had reported that text messages had been going around about, we needed a fresh voice. Those rumblings seem to grow legs over the weekend. Is it a case of the straw broke the camel's back?
It was certainly the word was around pretty strong on the weekend that if they didn't get within about 3 goals, if it wasn't a real competitive, that was it. And sure enough, it turned out to be correct. So it's very unusual for the word to be that strong. And so you knew it was today. You knew it was coming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don Pike obviously has been in the situation himself.
Yeah.
Looked very uncomfortable. There was probably an uncomfortable part of that press conference that sort of left you scratching your head a little bit. But he's been in that situation where he did get obviously the chop.
Yeah.
Simpson's a mate of his. How hard is that?
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wonder if a few players went in and said, "Hey, this has gone too far." You just don't know. Yeah, it's the brutal part of the game and not the enjoyable part of the game. But yeah.
Question without notice, because we've only just obviously found this out, and we're going to obviously talk about it over the next couple of weeks. We knew that Simpson was under pressure, a bit like Beveridge, a little bit like Hinkley, Nix. So the list goes on.
Yep.
Do we see him taking a bit of time out, for the next 100 days or whatever, and then throwing his hat back in the ring for a potential another coaching gig?
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes assistant. I'd be very, very surprised if he put up his hand for a head coaching role. I think he'll get back in the system.
He has won a premiership, though, so that holds him in good stead when it comes to clubs that might be looking for premiership experience.
It does, but I just don't. I reckon he's been pretty brutal last couple of years over there. And WA, similar to South Australia, you're under the pump with the two sides. They're the main, West Coast are the main side as well, so that most publicity. So I just wouldn't be surprised if he just slips back in the system as an assistant somewhere.
Fair enough. We talked about Adelaide's draft decisions and also, recruiting decisions at length, which we've done previously. West Coast are obviously in the spotlight right now, but their decision over the last 2 or 3 years to retain some players that are probably just getting on a little bit has now actually...
Oh, it's brutally hit them.
It's hit them right between the eye, hasn't it?
They gave up everything for Tim Kelly. They thought they were still in the window for one more. Turned out they weren't, and you had players who did go 1-2 years too long, and a lot of them.
Well, Simpson in that same boat, because we were sitting here at about this time last year watching him in a lot of his games, and he just looked devoid of any type of life whatsoever.
Yeah.
Seemed to get a little bit of pep in his step for the last couple of rounds of last year, and he thought, oh, well, maybe. Is it a case he stayed on maybe 1 year too long?
Yeah, he's looked mentally shot for a while.
I know hindsight's...
It's brutal.
I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but...
All the criticism with anything. If you're doing anything, criticism does get to you.
Yep. Yep. All right, let's move on from that. That wasn't probably the news that we wanted to hear, obviously, today. But let's get on with Adelaide and Port Adelaide. Let's have a listen to Matty Nix first up.
You guys have had these tight affairs, haven't you, the last 18 months? What do you think it is that you match up so well? And I guess what was the difference tonight?
We've had some tight games. Tonight was probably one they controlled for most of the night, and in the end, we hung around and we could have made it a little more interesting than what we did. Just it didn't execute late, but that's not the difference. I think the difference was in that first half when you've got two midfielders who are both outstanding players in Dunkley and Neil, just racking up 50 possessions or just under between them, and 4 goals or 3 goals, and we were unable to stop it. We tried a number of different ways to get it done, and it wasn't until the second half that we were able to do that. So that was really disappointing from our point of view.
All right, so Matty Nix, obviously they're talking about the honourable loss, another honourable loss to Brisbane, but it didn't need to be that way. They let Lachie Neale off the leash for way too long. I can't understand why that wasn't a priority right from the get-go.
Yeah, I thought he would have been pretty heavily tagged from ball one. So, bemusing. I still think Keys is their best tagger. So, I'm just confused.
Well, I've got on the run sheet here, have they repurposed Lachie Murphy? Because we've talked about whether he should be in that side or not. Is it a case of, have they found another spot for him? Because I'm worried if he continues to remain in the side.
Oh, look, I readily admit he wouldn't be on my side. He struggled against Norwood, and I thought, well, he won't get picked for AFL for a month, and then he played the next week. I just couldn't believe it. Mm-hmm. I respect Lockie Murphy as a person. I just don't think he's an AFL player.
He did a reasonable job against Neil after half time.
He did, but it was 7 touches himself, which included 3 clangers. Look, he's just not an AFL player. It's got me beat.
Obviously, Adelaide have got questions to be asked whether they play that next generation in the midfield, which they sort of got a little bit of a look at on the weekend with Dawson not performing to his regular high standards. Soligo is certainly one player that's made the transition, obviously, into the midfield, and Rankin as well. But now it looks like Rankin's going to be missing for 4 weeks now that they're going to challenge it. It's a 10 grand free shot, isn't it, really, at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's 10 grand out of your soft cap. You do that for enough times, you lose an employee out of it. It's a hard one in that way. But, yeah, it's a bit... Look, on the gradings, you only have to be remotely involved, and on the gradings, it was automatically 4 weeks. You can't even debate that. So now, but we'll challenge it, sort of roughly throw a dart, really, because I can't see their case personally. So I look forward to following the transcript tonight.
Yep. Well, it could be a long one with the Heaney.
Oh, I think it'll be a very long night. But intentional, I just don't get it that it was an intentional bump. You can't deny it wasn't. Now, yes, the injury wasn't intentional, but I just don't see how that's debatable. So it's got me beat. So, yeah, it's as another couple of us have questioned tonight saying we're going to learn something ourselves on how you handle this. Now, also the other problem at AFL level, it becomes a battle of the lawyers. Well, I'd love to have no lawyers involved, but then unfortunately you still open itself up for even more potential litigation otherwise in the future. So you sort of have to. So it's a catch-22.
Clubs are not allowed to use precedent though. That's the other thing that makes this whole scenario farcical.
It's funny. Look, while I obviously don't agree with every decision Michael Christian makes, you can follow it on the gradings and work out pretty easily how they came to that conclusion.
Yep. So they've got the black and white gradings.
Yeah, it is very black and white.
But when it goes
to the tribunal,
then it becomes grey.
Yeah. And there's been a couple this year on the tribunal where you've just shaken your head afterwards in bemusement. Okay, you have the case where Patrick Dangerfield is very articulate, and he just virtually bulldozed the prosecutor and made him look silly in the end. Now, not every player, in fact, only probably 1% of players are going to be capable of doing that. But, yeah, it's again, both tonight, which are going up on the gradings, I thought were very obvious.
Yep.
So, yeah.
It's going to be an interesting wait and see. Let's talk about Adelaide there just for a couple more minutes. How is it that Hawthorn have got so much right and the Crows have got so much wrong? With Hawthorn becoming a destination club, and this leads me into my question about the next generation of some of the Adelaide's players look like they're not going too bad as far as Soligo, Nankervis, Michael Annie, Rankin. We're waiting on, obviously, Thilthorpe and Fogarty. And so they've got some good players there, but they're 3 or 4 good players away from being super, super competitive. Now, how is it that Hawthorn have gone past them when really a year and a half ago they were almost 2 years behind them?
Yeah, it is pretty incredible, isn't it? And Hawthorn look way ahead of Adelaide at the moment too. It's not a debate.
No,
how close it is. So yeah, look,
but my question is, like, Adelaide needs 3 or 4 players. Yet Hawthorn are the destination club. How do they get 3? How do the Crows get 3 or 4 players?
Yeah, but they have got Dawson and Rankin back in the last few years. Yep. So wait and see on it. But yeah, look, at the moment, I think Adelaide's list is a mile away, and for mine, it's close to a rebuild again now. We just got to wait and see.
Yep.
There's glaring weaknesses in the Adelaide list. That can't be debated.
Were you surprised with Matty Nix saying we don't need wholesale changes? Because
that's bullshit. That's living in fantasy land.
But is that a coach, though, trying to instill some confidence in his players for the remainder of this year? It might completely change suit over the holiday break or the school holiday break or the end of season break, yes. That might change, but the philosophy at the moment seems to be that, look, we don't need to make wholesale changes.
At the moment,
I'm a little worried with that.
At the moment, he's selling bullshit. Yeah,
well, he's doing it pretty well.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Port Adelaide. Let's listen to Kenny Hinckley's press conference.
How much of a statement did your midfielders make, particularly your captain?
Oh, I thought they all played pretty well, clearly, and importantly, they started really well, which against the Bulldogs we know is incredibly important. You get the scoreboard going our way a little bit, win some territory, challenge them a little bit more than we have been able to in the past at times.
Jordan Sweet really enjoyed that one because of former team, all that?
Yeah, look, I'm sure he does to a point, but I think more importantly enjoys his opportunity to be first ruck, which we're lucky we've got him here at the club at the moment.
Was he motivated by that? The fact that it was a former team just to...
I only assume so. I don't know so, but anyone who plays against their former team, they have great respect for them. Yeah, my conversation with Zach was just stay calm, stay in the moment, control what you can control. Some stuff you can't control, so move on and let's get on with it. And he's always really good. Conversations with Zach are always pretty intense on game day, which is what I love about him. Everything's on the line for him on game day.
All right, Port Adelaide there getting off to the start they would have hoped and really put the game beyond doubt basically by the end of the first quarter.
I watched the first quarter at the Queen's Head. I was out and about with book stuff on Saturday, and there was Western Bulldogs were running into an open goal for the first goal of the game and stuffed it up with a handball over the top, said it was kicking the goal. Then there was another error which led to their second goal. Mm-hmm. It really was an arm, but it was Western Bulldogs out, and then the game was. Quarter time it was over.
Yep.
Yeah, it was...
was it a case of almost the quicksand? One mistake turns into two and then turns into three and then turns into four and it really puts them behind the eight ball. Rosie looked like he was back to his brilliant best.
He was moving better. There's no doubt about that. He seemed to have a bit of his elite sideways stepping movement back.
Now, how does that change from week to week, though?
I dare say his ankle might be a little bit better. Also, the jab might have worked a bit better. Mm-hmm. Not really sure on that one, but he looked freer.
Yep.
Where that's probably the first time in probably nearly 6 to 8 weeks where he's moved freely.
Yep. And did he cut them apart? A bit like we talked with Adelaide, that Neil got let off the hook. Well, in this case, Connor Rosie got off the hook as well. And it gave them...
Best on ground by that far at quarter time.
And then what it did is it released Horn Francis into the forward lines a little bit more, where he's damaging no matter where you play him. And, they almost sunk the boot in. Now, we listened to the Hinckley press conference there, and right at the end we're talking about Zach Butters. What were your thoughts on Kenny having a real crack at Zach on the bench there? Because I've got my thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I think he's just trying to keep him under. Don't do anything stupid, Zach. Don't do anything stupid. You should have been suspended by now. You've escaped a couple of times this year. He should have gone for that bump earlier in the year. That's one where I do think Michael Christian got blatantly wrong.
Yep.
So he's been very, very lucky. Like, he's 30-odd grand of fines. Like, there should be when you get to a level, it should be one game.
Yep.
So I think he's been ridiculously lucky. So I think it was just, Kenny trying to say, hey, pull your head in, don't do anything stupid.
Were you surprised that it was so open on the boundary where there are a million cameras and Kenny really did sort of point the finger and say, hey, no more, it's not good enough, and then to take him off.
Yeah, I've got no problem with that. They've won the game. I don't want to take any more risk with a star player that he's, known to be a hothead, and he's pretty close to being rubbed out, although it was good coaching.
My thoughts on it was it wasn't initially a good look, as in that the coach really having a crack at a player, but it seems like they've got a bit going back and forth there. But for me, it almost looked like Kenny had sort of shown his frustration in that one little slip-up, and it could cost him his career, and you don't want to be losing one of your big sort of 3 or 4 that they've got at the moment.
Yeah, look, trust me, that's pretty minor compared to some of the cracks coaches and players over the years. I think because there's so many cameras now and everything's so scrutinised.
Yep. It's going to be an interesting watch over the next couple of weeks, and obviously one of the dominoes has fallen at West Coast, obviously, earlier on today, and This leads me into my next question: is were Port fans quick to pass judgment on Hinckley, considering they're only one win away from second?
Yeah, no.
Because the booing, obviously, 2 or 3 weeks ago wasn't a good look, and there were a lot of people that didn't agree with it, and a lot of people that did agree with it. But do you think Port fans were a little bit quick to pass judgment?
Oh, very much so. And I thought it was a very good point to point out. Hang on, you're booing him last week, and you're clapping him this week. Like, it is over the top.
Is that a case of then Port almost pull back from listening to the supporter backlash a little bit, going, well, you boo him one week, you're clapping him the next?
I think they're worrying though on getting bums on seats and members next year.
Yep.
I think if they don't go a reasonably long way in September, I don't think he's any chance to be there personally.
We're going to cover that obviously as it happens.
As it happens, yeah.
Mitch Georgiadis had a breakout game, but then gets suspended. Not ideal for Port Adelaide. A young player, obviously getting a game for. He ended up getting a game, and they didn't challenge it. But my question to you is, who comes back in, Charlie Dixon or Sava Radaglia?
Depends also with the Radagalia's hammy comes up. I reckon they'll go straight for Dixon again.
Does that straighten them up a little bit, or do they become Charlie focused again? Because
that's the worry with them, that they do become Charlie focused. Collins is a very good player for Gold Coast this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Georgiadis, that's a big out for Port. Yeah. So, yeah.
Had obviously, like we said before, a breakout game there. And starting to assert a little bit of dominance. Not ideal, but, unfortunately, they've got to make a change somewhere there. And, it's going to be an interesting watch for me.
Yeah, no, it's a big one.
All right, mate.
Apologies there.
No, all good. All right, let's take a very, very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk some of the AFL hot topics and also go through some of the results.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Are dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde, for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Well, we thank Roger Steen there for his support, and we've got a new sponsor on board, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, and we've got a little advert for them. But Gary Creeves from Owens Castley Real Estate. So, but we'll see the ad come up.
Appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Let's talk some hot topics. If Moore wasn't captain of Collingwood, would he be getting a game?
I thought he was better on Friday night. I've got to be fair there, but his form has been very hit and miss. I think Nathan Murphy has been a lot bigger loss than what Collingwood realised. That he seemed to be probably the glue which kept them together. He was pretty footy smart and let Moore be able to attack more.
Yep.
And Moore this year seems to be lost sometimes when to defend, when to attack, and his judgment sometimes has been terrible. Sam McClure could have listened to Kane Corns a bit more on that one.
Yep.
So I think his spot might have been in jeopardy a little bit, but I thought he was better Friday night. He's probably got enough runs in the
tank,
in the bank to keep his spot, but
the interesting
they need him to be a lot more consistent than what he's been.
The interesting one for me is from last year to this year. His positioning was absolutely immaculate last year, and this year just doesn't know where he's at, and they even tried throwing him forward at one stage to try and get a little bit of productivity out of him.
As I said, I really reckon that shows how good a player Nathan Murphy was.
Yep. Yep. All right, Brownlow predictions have been thrown into disarray. We have talked about it briefly with Isaac Rankin getting 4 games, obviously off the bat, and they're going to challenge it. Heaney's in the same boat. He's going to get 1 game. They're going to challenge that as well. I know we're sort of watching that one as we're doing the podcast. The Heaney one for me was interesting in the fact that, all right, he's made contact with the player. He's obviously caused blood nose, could have caused concussion, could have, not caused any injury at all. But the fact that he did make contact with him off the ball so far and also caused an injury means that the grading, as you've said previously, is correct.
Yeah, I think they've thrown a dart. I do wonder if he wasn't a Brownlow candidate and if he'd been a run-of-the-mill player that I think Sydney might have accepted it. I admit I thought I won't message Hales on that one. I'll wait till I run into him and then I might
might be a smart move.
Might get a bit more out of it then catching up with him in a while.
Yep.
For mine, he's thrown the hand back. He's caused the blood nose, so you can't say it's insufficient because he had to go off with blood.
Yes.
So, it's an interesting one. Yes, we acknowledge that he didn't mean to hurt him and all that, but it's still a strike and all that. It's interesting with the AFL. The AFL's main argument on it now, it's the AFL leaning heavily on the guidelines which say strikes will usually be graded intentional. Obviously, they've probably got both hearings in mind tonight with that saying. So we're waiting to see on what happens. But
were you surprised
it's been Russian roulette at the tribunal.
Yep. Were you surprised that Zerk Thatcher's contact on Norton from the Bulldogs wasn't cited at all, considering it was almost the same situation, really?
Yeah, it's a bit bemusing on that. That one's,
Well, Norton had to go off with almost a broken nose, so...
On that one, you can argue that the contact was totally accident where Heaney has thrown his hand
to
back
try and create separation.
So, I can see where it came from, but I do think he was slightly lucky. Not ridiculously lucky, like Butters was early in the year, but I still think slight.
Is he a Brownlow favourite? Does that weigh into it at all? I know it shouldn't, but it seems to be the way at the moment.
Well, I think that's where the tribunal's under a bit of pump tonight, where on this one, finally a Brownlow favourite has been suspended, where, the past couple of years and the farcical bit with Cripps, when Cripps got off, where Carlton's lawyers were brilliant, but the AFL could have reappealed that themselves.
Yes.
And they chose not to because they were gun shy.
The Cochin one in 2017 in the prelim.
Oh.
Same sort of deal.
Yeah.
Sorry to bring up old wounds there, mate.
Oh, no, it's out of that. It was incompetent by Nathan Burke.
Yep.
And Michael Christian's been far better in the role than what Nathan Burke was. Yeah, trust me, with a couple of commissioners who told the AFL where to shove it after that came up, my comments on that are mild compared to a couple of others.
Yes, fair enough. Yeah. We've talked about Isaac Rankin getting 4 games. Do you think that's a fair result?
On the gradings, it is. It's just blatant. Yep. Yes, it was intentional. Yes, the impact's severe because he's caused concussion.
Yep.
Yes, of course he didn't mean to cause concussion, all that. And as I said, I just don't know where Adelaide are going to go tonight with it. It's sort of like throwing a dart. We'll try and get it down for one. I think it's also appeasing supporters who don't understand the guidelines, how the overwhelming majority don't.
Supporters want them to be strong.
And all that bullshit. So I think that's part of it as well.
Yep. All right, let's move on to Damien Hardwick. He's not a happy camper up at the Gold Coast. Puts it on the line with his press conference telling the Gold Coast players to grow the beep up, or the club to grow up.
Look, I think he's lucky not to got the fine from it. I think that was a bit... Laura Kane's explanation on that again was...
Well, because he apologised. Hang on, he did it.
Yeah, again was bizarre.
Well, the question would be that if Isaac Rankin and Isaac Heaney had apologised to their opponents, well, then they should have got off too, really.
Charlie Cameron got off on the good bloke cause early in the year, so there's some things which are just bizarre. So, look.
Well, do you think it was fair from Damien Hardwick? Obviously, they've got a fantastic record at home.
Frustration where he's going, hang on, you're showing how good you can be, and they're still,
Is it still a team going through that evolution, though?
Yeah, but I will always remember Malcolm Blight, The first thing he did was to go through how to tie up your shoelaces. Then he got a piece of grass up and used very colourful language and all that to let him know, whatever ground you're playing on, it's the same fucking thing.
Yep.
And I'm sick of Adelaide Football Club being hopeless as soon as they board a plane. Well, I think Hardwick was just very similar.
Boat. Yep.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Tasmania's back on the agenda. They've released some renderings of their stadium. The launch of the new teams, obviously, they're slated it for 2028. Do we think that's a little too soon? Because this is going to be built by the government. Now, we all know what government contracts can be like. They do run behind at the best of times. Is it a case that Tasmania hold fire for maybe 12 more months to get their first game in that new stadium?
Look, 28's the aim. It's certainly no certainty to happen. Like, Port came in a year after what they were supposedly going to originally as well. They were going to come in 96 and it became 97.
Yep.
Look, while 28's the aim at this stage, it's certainly no certainty.
Yep. I know there's a lot of water to go on the bridge, and obviously they've got new CEO going in after the season, and there's got a lot of things. Have you seen some of the rendering? What are your thoughts?
Oh, no, it looks impressive, but exactly that. Hang on. You can never trust these things to get done, and it's...
Or considering Marvel looked $1 million, but yet they never put in coaches' boxes and stuffed up with the function rooms and all that kind of jazz. So
major stuff up.
And the ground is orientated incorrectly for sun and shadows and all that kind of jazz. So, sometimes you've got to wonder about government contracts. But anyway, all right, Rising Star nomination for round 16 and 17. We'll do them both together because we did forget last week. It was Will Graham from the Gold Coast and Darcy Jones from GWS.
Yeah, did see Will Graham play last year in the in the under-18 championship here, and we were very impressed, and he can seriously play, and Darcy Jones is showing a bit for GWS at the moment as well, so but I'm a big G for Will Graham.
Absolutely. All right, let's whiz through a couple of the results. Collingwood going down by 12 points to Essendon.
Yeah, that game seesawed and then just got a little bit on top, just were a fraction too good in the end, and I sort of agree with McRae where he's saying they're just a bit off, with connection and not quite. They're not as good defensively. Mm-hmm. Last year they looked so much harder.
Yeah, but look at the injuries they've got though too.
Injuries is huge. Injuries is massive. Yep. And Mychek now out for at least all the minor round, and pretty unlikely to play again this year.
Yep.
He's had a shocking year with injury.
Yep. I've asked the question before. Do we trust Essendon yet?
Let's just say it got a few more ticks on Friday night than it's had before. Gradually getting there. Okay. Work in progress.
Okay, fair enough. North Melbourne stunning the Gold Coast Suns by 4 points. We've talked about, obviously, Hardwick being a bit of an angry ant, but good for the young North Melbourne players just to at least get a little bit of reward for some of the hard work. And their last 4 or 5 weeks have actually been very, very good, really.
Have a look at Will Powell's Torp too, son of Matty.
Yes. It was a beauty, wasn't it?
Yeah, ex-Crow, obviously, double blue and Panthers, Matty Powell. Good bloke, Matty. And, he got onto it, launched it, and, he's just getting there as well. Some of those North, the North list is a mile closer to flag than the Crows are, to use that as one example. I think there's a fair of those green shoots just starting.
Yep.
Just slowly getting there.
We haven't seen Taylor Goad yet. Do we see him busting his way into that North Melbourne side, or do we see potentially a trade somewhere
it's only
along the line?
He's only a kid. Yep. In the ruck, he's a kid. It was always a long-term thing with someone of that age and size. Mm-hmm. So I think I know that they were happy with him early in the year. I admit I haven't followed that up on a while. I will this week.
Yep.
So, wait and see. But, look, my thoughts on him.
I do indeed. Port Adelaide winning by 48 points, which we've already talked about. Hawthorn, unfortunately, taking the trip down the highway to GMHBA Stadium, and the Cats do what they do best down there and ended up winning by 51 points. And I think Sammy Mitchell came out and was very honest that, there is separation between those top 4 or 5 teams and the rest of the competition, and his team got a bit of a reality check.
Yeah, and their record at Cardinia Park He's very good.
Well, as it should
overall.
be.
Yeah.
All right, mate. I was jumping around doing cartwheels. Well, not really, because I can't do that just at the moment.
Yeah, I'd be a bit worried if you're doing that.
Yeah, no, definitely not. But I was certainly on the party bus at quarter time between Carlton and GWS, and went to grab something to eat, came back about 10 minutes later, and all of a sudden the Giants are in front and looked like they were going to go away with it at one stage by almost 30 or 40 points, but Carlton fought back
a bit,
lose by 12 points.
It was a strange game, and it was certainly a battle with who was on top, and then certainly went in waves. And GWS lost that game; they were nearly gone, so it keeps them in the hunt.
Yep.
And so it should with how much bloody ability in that side.
Absolutely. I think GWS played probably the most scintillating football, 40 minutes of football that I think we've seen for a long, long time.
Maybe since them round one against Collingwood,
yeah,
where they were awesome that night as well. So
and then Melbourne obviously in the grand final a couple of years ago. The Dockers, a bit of a slog early on against Richmond, and again Richmond keep fronting up week after week, but they just can't sustain it, and their injuries are going to catch up with them not only this year but for a good part of next year as well.
Big time. Fremantle just continue to quietly be around the mark, and
they're going to be the wild card, I think, come September. At the
depending
moment,
where they finish.
This is the question, isn't it? There's a good chunk of teams running home that have got some lower ranked teams that could put some percentage on. So it's going to be an interesting watch. But at the moment, I like what they've done since about round 4 or round 5, where they were a little bit off. It was almost the gather round trip to Adelaide that things started to just turn a little bit.
Very unlucky in that game.
Yeah, it almost turned around a little bit. Melbourne getting the job done by 54 points over West Coast. Well, we know what the ramifications are there. The Gawn injury out for, he says, 2 weeks, but they're saying 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
How much does that impact their run home?
It's big. Look, Fullerton sounds like he might get first crack. Look, I'll be blatantly honest. I would love to see Will Verrill get a game. Son of a good mate, Stewie, who's going through a hell of a lot. He's got MMD.
Yep.
I would love Will to play, so we'll just wait and see. I admit I haven't messaged Stewie yet on that one, but I'll...
Must be getting closer.
I hope so,
Yep, fair call. The big surprise for the weekend was St Kilda getting up over Sydney by 2 points. Now, I think Sydney have lost, 3 games for the year by a combined 10 points and under, I think it is.
Yeah.
And yet the Swan supporters are not too happy about it.
Yeah, so... look, I still think they're going to be around the mark. Same with Carlton. I still think Sydney and Carlton are the 2 best sides. But just on the weekend...
Anything can happen.
Yeah. Yep.
Were you surprised that Matthias came back into the team and had the impact that he did?
Probably having the impact. It's unusual for someone to come back into a side and get best on ground, but I rate him highly as a player. The performance didn't surprise me at all. I do think he's a genuine chance of being a future Bonapelli. He's that sort of player.
Yep.
So, rate him very highly. Glad that he did dominate.
And obviously, Brisbane getting up over Adelaide there as well. All right, let's have a look at round 18 games, mate. Let's get some tips off you. Collingwood v Geelong at the MCG.
On injuries, I'm going to go for the Cats.
I'm going to go the Cats there as well. Hawthorn v the Dockers down in Launceston.
Yeah. Hawks have got a good record down there. It's a big game for Freo.
And a long trip too, because I think they've got to go to Melbourne first, then jump on the plane and go over there.
Oh, look, only because you still got your doubts on Freo travelling. Look, they should beat Hawthorn. They really should. But
it's an 8-point game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a big game. Toss the coin. Heads or tails. You call one.
I'll go Hawthorn.
Yep.
Heads.
Yep. And I'll go Freo then, just for a bit of fun.
There you go. No worries. Sydney v North Melbourne.
Yeah, Sydney to rebound, surely.
At home at the SCG, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a good lesson for the North Melbourne players. I think they'll take a lot of heart out of last week's game, but Sydney for me. The Bulldogs v Carlton, another watch game, a bit like Freo. They should win. Yeah. Carlton should beat the Bulldogs, but
I'll go Carlton, but I agree with you.
It's at Marvel Stadium, so anything can happen there, and it does play faster than most other grounds. Adelaide v St Kilda.
Without ranking, evens it up, but I'll still go with Adelaide for the home ground side of things. I still think it's a battle of two, run-of-the-mill side of thing.
I'm going to agree with you there. I was going to toss the coin, but no, I think probably Adelaide at home as well. Melbourne v Essendon, another good test for both teams.
Yeah, without Gawn and Petrarca, I'll go Essendon.
Yep. The Suns v Port Adelaide at up on the Gold Coast there.
I'm going to go for the Suns in terms of up there, and Port without Georgiadis, I think, is a big out.
Yep. I'm going to go for the Suns at home as well, and especially after Damien Hardwick let rip, I think everybody's on notice this week, so expect a pretty big encounter. Richmond v the Giants.
I'll go the Giants.
Go the Giants at the MCG, and to finish us off, potentially with a new coach, West Coast v the Brisbane Lions.
Yeah, a bit bizarre that they want him to do a farewell game after. It's not
well, but he didn't know about it. They sort of sprung it on him. It's like,
it was weird.
If it's mutual, then really everyone's walking away, shaking hands at the end of that meeting, and that's it, done.
Yeah, no, it was strange. Yeah, got me beat.
Do we see the West Coast bounce with a new coach?
Possibly. Who knows what's going to happen with them?
Well, and Brisbane are the informed team at the moment, winning 4 out of the last 5. But they have,
they have
had a few
questionable,
soft kills as well along the way. So,
but they should win.
Yep. I mean, the Lions' most impressive performance was probably against Port Adelaide a fortnight ago, and really put the power to the sword. All right, mate, let's take a very, very quick break. When we come back, past players, past legends, Tommy Warhurst, part 2.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking to buy or sell your home anywhere in Adelaide, from the hills to the sea? Meet Gary Creeves, your dedicated local agent from Owens Casserly Real Estate. With unparalleled knowledge of Adelaide's housing market and a commitment to exceptional service, Gary ensures a smooth and stress-free experience for all your real estate needs. Trust the expert, trust Gary Creeves at Owens Casserly Real Estate. Your next dream home awaits. Contact Gary today on 0422 071 317 or on email garyk@ocre.com.au. And for more listings, please visit owenscasserly.com.au. Make it happen. We thank Gary there for his sponsorship of Season 8 of the Game On
Welcome
podcast.
aboard, Crazy. Greatly appreciate
Absolutely.
it, Gary.
Now, we did say we're going to talk about the we're going to cross to past players, past legends, but we've actually skipped complete subjects in the SANFL and the SANFLW and some tennis. So let's run through them very, very quickly. Congratulations go to the South Adelaide Football Club for a good win in the SANFLW Grand Final.
Look, and it's not the first grand final. Like, people have been pretty quick to slam it. It's not the first grand final. Let's remember North Adelaide, 1 goal in mind against Port. Yes, it wasn't a great game. It really wasn't. Both teams were a bit disappointing. But South, hang on. Yeah, didn't score in the second half, and Norwood certainly had enough of the ball. Mm-hmm. Look, I will criticise Norwood's last minute of the first quarter, that it is straight 18 minutes, no time on if there's no goals kicked in SANFL. And really, Norwood should have just got the ball out wide, played the percentages, tried to jip short, beyond the ability level, and South scored a goal. Now, in that, where it is so low scoring, it was pretty costly. And also, ball up in the Norwood goal square and give away a free kick. It was silly.
Yep.
But South looked probably a bit more composed. And Nord certainly had enough of the ball, but they just weren't as composed moving forward. Yep. That would have been probably my thoughts.
Your thoughts on it? Interesting that it was such a low-scoring game, but then again, grand finals are going to be tight. Everyone's tight. No one wants to give away anything, and little things can make a big difference, and you've just articulated there that couple of little things that have gone their way.
It's only a couple of things. Look, I will say also the South male players were in front of the scoreboard, and it was good fun. It was some of the comments quite amusing, and it was really a bit of old-fashioned banter, and we were all laughing. It was good fun.
Yep, absolutely, and that's what it's about. So congratulations there, go to South Adelaide.
And look, and let's also
and they were the best team all year, really. Norwood was fantastic to come from fourth to play in a grand final and probably had their chances.
Yeah, they did, and let's also remember South were very, very unlucky last year. They got crucified in the last couple of minutes last year, so yeah, they'll probably deserve it. Yeah, after the disappointment of last year, they deserved it.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the SANFL. Adelaide getting up over the Central Districts.
Yeah, look, it's all, and that's where I'm a bit angry still with both sides. Adelaide and Port, this bullshit of wanting to go to the VFL. If you haven't got that many injuries and suddenly players are available, you're a hell of a lot stronger and you're competitive and have a good chance of winning the game. So I think it's crap. Yep. They should appreciate where they come from a bit. Both clubs a bit more there. Mm-hmm. Just having Thilthorpe available. He didn't dominate on the weekend. He only kicked a couple and apparently was a bit sore and all that, which is generally the way after you've been out for a fair while, the second game. Yep. But yeah, just having a few players available. Yeah, so look, they're hard to beat when they are.
Absolutely. All right, Sturt getting up over the Panthers. Predictable result in the end, but Sturt are a team to watch at the moment. I think we flagged it earlier on pre-season that we thought they'd be around the mark, but Marty Matner's got them up and firing at the moment.
Yeah, it was. And South missed a goal in the last 30 seconds of the third quarter, and so went into three-quarter time 1 point up when it should have been a goal up.
Yep.
We were following that game at Richmond.
Yep.
Sitting next to Mr. The parents of the King on Saturday, so on Sunday.
Yes.
And that's where Norwood were a long way in front, so you were relaxed following other games and that, but yeah, too good in the end.
Absolutely. Glenelg and Woodville West Torrens. Glenelg getting the chocolates, just doing what they need to do at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, that swayed back and forth because the Eagles kicked the first 4 goals of the game.
Yep.
And Glenelg, it sort of seemed to follow the scoring in, and Glenelg got a goal late in the third quarter, turned out to be pretty crucial.
Yep. Norwood dominating West Adelaide. Good to get off to a good start at Richmond there because, like we've talked about last week, it hadn't been a happy hunting ground or a bit of a bogey ground for them in the past. So, but they put the game to bed early, didn't they?
Yeah, just way too good. Billy Cootie, very good on ball. Harry Boyd dominated again.
Yep.
Baden Lowe was good on ball. Jack Herg, very good down back. Matty Ling. Rocky Balboa, we've been stirring him up. His 3-game suspension. Hitman Harding.
Yep.
He said, geez, you bastards got any more nicknames for me? And, yeah, we kept going.
Yes.
But he was very good on his comeback as well.
Absolutely. Very impressed with Baden Lowe this year. I think
he's having a good year.
He is having a fantastic year. And Port Adelaide getting up over North Adelaide. Again, players are available. They're half a chance, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right, let's move on to this week's round 14 games. Norwood v Adelaide. I know it's early in the week, so we haven't seen who's available and who's not, but
Rankin's not, so that means someone goes up. Also, the fact Adelaide play SANFL before the AFL game, they generally hold another player back. So, out of that, which is just so crucial at AFL level, I would think Thilthorpe will play AFL this week. I'd be very surprised if he plays that it's another SANFL game. So, therefore, it's probably Himmelberg back. So, Hurdy and him have some good duels.
Yes.
So, yeah, out of that, wait and see. But, look, on the small ground where Norwood are good defensively, I'll tip the legs.
I'll tip the leggies there as well. Port Adelaide v Glenelg.
Yeah, I'll go Glenelg, but I at Alberton.
It is at Alberton?
Yeah, outside, but I'll go Glenelg.
I'll go Glenelg there just as well. I think that's going to be a seesawing affair. The Eagles v Sturt.
At
Montine.
Yeah, where the pasties are spicier. I'll go Sturt. Big game though. Massive game.
Huge game. And Central Districts v West Adelaide.
Yeah, I'll go at the Ponderosa. I'll go the Dogs.
I'll go the Dogs as well. And then just to finish us off the round, the Panthers v the Roosters.
At Victor Harbour. So
it is
very interesting how that goes. Good luck to John Griffin. And Griff, I'm sure, will be the king of Victor this weekend, entertaining everyone.
Yes.
So out of that, I'll go for South down there.
I'm going to go for South Adelaide as well. No change really to the ladder. Norwood, Stirk, Glenelg, Centrals and Woodville West Torrens. North Adelaide had a big chance last weekend and unfortunately didn't take it.
Yep.
But there's still plenty of time left in the season. All right, let's move on to tennis. Wimbledon. The finals are starting to heat up a little bit with some of the big names in the men's still in the tournament, but the women's seems to be wide open.
It is, very much so. So our man, Alex Diminor, play. Look,
he looked a little bit lame after last night's game. I reckon he hip.
Yeah, so that's a real worry how he comes up to play Djokovic. Look, if he's battling, Djokovic will be too good. Yeah.
And Djokovic seems to be hitting form right at the end. I'm still on probably Jannik Sinner to take the tournament, but anything can happen from here, and who knows? It might have only just been a little twinge that he was a little bit worried about, but it didn't look like it. No. He pulled up lame. No. Yep. No. Our man, or Adelaide man, Tanasi Kokonakis ruined his chances after such a few good couple of rounds with injury again.
Yeah, a bit unlucky. Probably too many 5 sets matches
in the lead up. Yep.
Yeah, and all that sort of things. Even earlier on, I think it was something incredible, like 5 of his last 6 matches in Grand Prix in
Grand Slams.
In the Grand Slams have been 5-setters. So but unlucky enough getting injured. Yep. Disappointing.
Obviously getting through his first round match over 2 days, went 5 sets as we talked about. No good. But this year Wimbledon just seems to be, there's a few more knee injuries this year because they've come almost straight off the clay where you are sliding and the grass looks greener this year than usual.
There's certainly been a few pullouts and a few walkovers, and obviously we're worried about Alex in that way to wait and see. So,
Yeah, he might only get through a couple of games of the first set, and that might be the end of it. All right, mate, we're definitely going to take a break this time and head straight into Past Players, Past Legends with Tommy Wurst.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Past players, past legends, past legends.
Yeah, I mean, Russell was coach of Port at that stage. You know, he was on one leg a bit, and so they didn't have as strong a team as perhaps they'd had in 1980 side. As Malcolm said, that 1980 side from Port
was a great side.
It was a great side. They had a lot of good players, but they had a few young players in the 84 grand final team, and they had a few guys that were just on the edge, and so we were pretty keen. We were pretty keen on our chances.
What was Barmy like that week with the players?
Well, Barmy was always positive. I can never remember Barmy being negative. I mean, even when we were 1-6 during the year, he got this whiteboard out in the change rooms and put the next 10 or 12 games in front of us and said, how many of these do you think we can win? Can we beat these guys? Can we beat these guys? Can we beat these guys? And, the overwhelming thought from everybody was, yes, we can. We can beat all these teams, even though we were travelling rough. I mean, you wouldn't want to have put your hand up and said, no, I don't think we can win that one. So I think people were, on the bandwagon. And, you just gain momentum and win after win after win. And all of a sudden you're in the finals. And South weren't that strong. We met them in the last minor round game.
Yep.
And beat them and knew pretty much that we'd get over the line. But the next 2 games were going to be tough. And, but Barmy's always positive. One of the most positive men in football I've ever met. And I think that's why he's been so successful. He's just all positivity.
Yep. And he's honest.
That's true.
I think, too, the other bit there, I reckon Neville, in terms of grand final week in 84, was important too. I can remember him saying, and some of us must have been around after tryout, whatever, and just Neville's, hang on, look at the 2 teams on paper. We're better than them. And I reckon there was quiet confidence amongst you guys coming into the grand final.
But you can never count Port Adelaide.
Oh, of course
out.
not. Not at all. But I just think it wasn't a case of we weren't intimidated by them, and we just go. And I reckon you guys were going. Yeah, I reckon. Just good. We'd come fifth at the end of the minor round. I reckon we were. Yep. No, we match up pretty well against them. We're pretty confident.
We were battle hardened, if you'd like. I think the grand final was only Port's second game in 4 weeks or something like that, because they finished top and won the first final. So, we got off to a good start, and we only had the one injury. I think going into the final, Rowan Hellier hurt his arm in the preliminary, and Andrew Jarvis came in and did a really good job. So, I think Port had an injury overnight. Ben Harris was going to play, and then he pulled out. And Max Jones played, and Max hadn't played league footy for a while. So just the moons aligned, or whatever they say, and we get over the line. It wouldn't have been such a good game if we'd lost. I wouldn't be talking about it.
I wouldn't have watched a minute of it since if I hadn't. I may have watched it a couple of times.
Well,
Tommy.
You mean today?
Yeah, well, not since midday. Yeah, go on.
Now, I have to ask, Tommy, the big takeaway, obviously, from the 84 grand final was Barm and Evans going toe-to-toe in the square. We've asked a few of our previous guests about it, but what are your thoughts on how that all transpired?
Yeah, well, Ian Stazanowski, obviously the Norwood famous fullback, was chairman of selectors or on the selection committee. So I can remember him talking to us during the week, Craig, myself, and the other backline players, and saying that, he'd had a history of playing on Tim Evans and done very well.
Yeah,
and
good record on him.
Theory that if you could get under Tim's skin and annoy him, and just frustrate him, you've got a fair chance of doing okay. And I think before the game, Staz was in the rooms and again confirmed with Barmy that this was the tactic. So it was all pre-planned, and whether I think Tim kicked 3-5 for the day or something, could it? If he kicked 5-3, we might have lost. So.
I reckon he gave away a couple of frees and
early.
He kicked into the man on the mark once. He was flustered, especially to at least half time. So it certainly did work. And let's be honest too, Tim Evans was a fair player.
Absolutely.
More natural ability than Craig Barm, and that's taking nothing away from Craig whatsoever. But it worked. And Stazza and Nico's tactics there worked to a T.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I can't remember whether Tim Evans played on after 84, but that may well have been his last game. I can't recall.
I think he played a bit,
he was a terrific player, and again, good old Staz.
Yes, the
great for the idea.
Yeah, and
did you think that it was going to happen during the national anthem though?
Yeah. We thought that it'd start before the first, so nothing. Nothing surprised us. No.
I think, too, the other bit there that just because we've seen the calm and relaxed Barmy as a coach, as you think, we're all still thinking, well, hang on, Neil as a player, what he did a couple of times, is Craig going to do the same thing? So I reckon that was in all of us our thought patterns a bit, but I think Craig was pretty relaxed about it. He was just giving him shit, and it worked.
Yeah. Craig was just trying to have a conversation with him, he claims, so and he wasn't getting any replies. So he got closer and closer and louder and louder.
I think the classic bit of footage on all of that is Neil standing on the bench almost pissing himself laughing.
Well, he knew it was coming too, so and Staz probably, he was sitting next to Barmy for most of the day, so it was a little plan well hatched.
Very well played.
And of course, too, one thing in that game, you did the best tackle of your career, Tommy. Very vital tackle. And pretty fair play.
I was about to say, on a pretty good player from memory.
Pretty fair player to nail with the tackle too, Tommy.
I missed that. Sorry, Malcolm. But
fair player to nail the tackle on too in Craig Bradley.
Yeah, well, it seems to be an important tackle. I had the advantage of knowing that all these skillful little guys would try and get around me, so I was prepared. So, luckily I can remember Ebert took a mark and Bradley was running around back looking for a handball, sort of 60 metres from goal, and just everything went slow motion pretty much. Saw the handball coming, and got the decision, and I think from there it started Aishi's run around the boundary line. So that famous run, I think I might have handballed to Justin, and he might have given it to Aishi, and Aishi took 5 bounces and ended up with Keith's remarkable goal. I think so.
Incredible goal.
What was because I'm not quite that old, but I still love the 84 grand final, watching it back and forth. And obviously you can hear the crowd, but what was it like on ground with Aishi streaming down the wing there, and then obviously Keith Thomas finishing off the goal? What was would have gone insane.
Jesus, it was loud.
It was like a sort of a, I was going to say a Boeing 747 for those who are old enough to remember them, but just the raw, amplified as he ran along.
Well, we were. A lot of us, the Norwood faithful, were in the outer.
Yes.
And as Aishi started, we just keep going and sort of just, and I reckon Aishi sort of rode it with us and kept going.
Yeah, that's what
the handball over to KT kicks long. John Hall goes up for the mark, the spoil. The handball from Greg Thomas, it wasn't a great handball from Greg. It went behind him.
But he made
great
it look,
trap by Keith.
He made it look better.
Goal.
Yep.
So, yeah. Might have watched that once or twice, Tommy.
Yeah, no, that's one of the great goals. I mean, if it was an AFL goal nowadays, they'd be raving about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Be on the Hilux, I reckon.
I reckon, yeah.
Of course, from there, Tommy, yes, as you said, there was some disappointing prelim finals. Your form was, still it was consistent. I think your year which would bring up pretty fond memories was, so you're vice captain in 90, but your 200-game milestone in 89 against South. You're runner-up to Rodney Maynard in the BNF in 89, and an award which meant a lot to you with knowing the Nord Awards. You won the Woods Medal and the E.A. Johnson Award and made the Advertiser Team of the Year. So that's got to bring back some pretty great memories, Tommy.
Yeah, that was a pretty reasonable year. I broke my hand too. At Norwood and missed probably 3 games. So, I rue that fact. Would have liked to have got the best and fairest. That would have
because it was pretty close on memory.
Yeah, I would never got the final count, but I can remember somebody in officialdom, whether it was Wally or somebody saying, "Oh, you've come up close." But 89. Wow, long time ago. But was a vice captain with Mac, was I?
Yep.
Yeah, well, the club were, I think it was Aishi. Was he the previous captain or Neville? I can't remember now.
Jeez,
but
Neville, I think so.
Yeah, we had a little interview. Justin Scanlon was interviewed for the captaincy, myself, but it was always going to be Macca's. So happy that it was. So
well, talking about milestones, you brought up your 100th game in 1985 and represented South for the state against Western Australia.
Yeah, Neville was captain, yes. Yep, I got it.
Okay,
Yep.
What were you...
So
Neville
Neville to Aishi and then to Macca in 90. So it was Neville in 85, 86, Michael in 87, 88, 89, and then Macca. Yeah.
Pretty good trio of players. Yeah.
So, just going back to your state representation against Western Australia there during the 1985 season, what are your thoughts on representing the state and getting that opportunity?
Yeah, I didn't play State of Origin. There was always a couple of guys in front of me, which is fine. I have no regrets there. But, I reckon I stood Peter Bazzusto, of all people, from the ex... Carlton guy who went back to play in Perth, and I can't remember doing a hell of a lot.
And
I think Johnny Cale, who was Johnny Cale, might have been the.
Yeah, he was. I think so.
Yeah, and I did find John Cale very motivating and a good coach. No wonder he was so successful.
And I'm going to message one day from Gia. always can make sure I've got to concentrate with your wife and Gia and Zia in terms of with Macca, with Gia, and then it was to do some research on Tom's state games, and Jeff Wilson did help me with that, and we came up with your dates and all that, and Gia got the Guernseys framed for a birthday, I reckon, on memory.
Yeah, she did. Yeah, thank you very much. She mentioned that you'd help with that. So, I wouldn't have called my state footy a illustrious career, but one of my other state games was in Perth at Subiaco, and that was a great day because Macca played and Kernahan played.
Yeah.
Malcolm Blight kicked 10 at full forward.
Yeah,
I often say Blighty wouldn't have known who I was.
And Barmy coached that game.
Barmy coached, and I think McDermott played, McGuinness played, maybe. But yeah, Bruce Lindsay was on a half-back flank, so we had a gun side and won easily.
And Barmy out of that rang Blighty up and talked him into playing, and sort of on the lines of, I want an old bugger to drink with me after the game, and I think those two were pretty bloody good at that side of it.
Yeah. Well, I roomed with Greg Anderson, so I know he played.
Yep.
He was a gun. That was before he went to Melbourne. So it was a terrific side. I think Peter Bubner and I were in the back lines, and Scotty Lee might have played in the back pocket. I'm not too sure, but it was a bloody good side, and we had a good win there.
So, Tommy, from there, with the Crows starting, go through the start of all that, because there was millions of you guys there for training and trying to make the initial squad, of which you did. And we will get onto the folklore part and try and find out how much of that was true in a minute. But you go through that sort of experience with the Crows starting up, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough decision because one Macca had made it known that he wasn't going. Yeah. So, I mean, if he was sort of our, you could say a spiritual leader and the footy club, and when he says he's not going, it sort of makes you have second thoughts. I don't know what tipped me to say yes, but because me and Cornsey were never, I'd played on Cornsey before, and we were never great, never had much to say to each other. And Curls and I, we didn't like each other so much. So I don't think my chances of having a long career down at Adelaide Footy Club was great. But
you've opened up there, because that was going to be the next question, Tommy. So you played the first game and played very well in the Crows' first game. And okay, the Crows that night were dynamite, and you can still argue were as good as they've ever played. And I think you guys just rode on the crowd and all that side of things. And we won easy, but you played very well on Dunstall. So then the next game we're playing Carlton. Now you got interviewed. I reckon it was the News back then, and all you did was honest and said, Kernahan had beaten you a couple of times.
Yeah,
and
as he did.
Well, geez, it's not exactly harming anyone getting beaten by Kernahan. And there seemed to be a hullabaloo about how dare you have said that and gave Carlton confidence bullshit. It was, for mine, it was a load of crap. And you seem to get your papers stamped a bit because of that. Did you? Yeah. Did you think that as well?
Right. I think you're right. I mean, I didn't.
Crazy.
I've only looked back retrospectively and think that, but I think McDermott being cleaned up in the first game as well. I was standing Brereton at the time.
I was trying to work that out.
Yeah, I didn't see him get cleaned up. So I'm not making excuses, but it's hard to go in there and someone into next week if you haven't seen the incident. So Curls, he had a bit to say. He wasn't terribly pleased on my reaction, and thinks I probably should have gone in and attempted to knock his block off and get 6 games. And I think that carried on to the next week. And anyway,
bizarre. I couldn't, because to my mind, well, hang on, you've done a good job on Dunstall, and okay, well. Again, you've been unlucky enough to get Dunstall, Brereton, and Kernahan your first 2 games. Fair rap. Yeah. So you've played as the key defender, and then we're virtually treated like you're a leper. It was staggering.
Yeah. It was a difficult situation. I mean, Danny Hughes was he may have been first choice. I'm not too sure, but he was injured for the first couple of weeks, and they brought him back in, and that they made the swap there. But
I reckon you're a better player than Danny, and I'm not being rude. That's my own personal opinion. Yeah,
but having to go down there 5 nights a week and then not playing, and not, they had a payment system whereby you didn't get paid if you didn't play. And so it was, I had a business which wasn't overly successful on the parade, and a young family, and to drive down there five nights a week and then not play. And Norwood, there was a system where you went back to Norwood but weren't on your previous match payments at Norwood, so you were playing for sort of $150 a week, and it's not, you don't play for the money, but it adds stress to the family. You haven't got that income.
It's you sort of almost get a double whack, don't you? You're expected to put in 3 million hours but get paid the apprentice wage.
That's right. I mean, I think there were 4 or 5 guys who were the star players, and they negotiated a fair, Scotty Hodges and Daryl Hart and McDermott and McGuinness, and perhaps Daryl. I said Daryl Hart, but they were in the papers at the time, not standing out until they got paid money. But the rest of us were on. Admittedly, it was a lot of money then. It was like $1,000 a game back then. But if you weren't playing, you were behind the 8 ball, and of course tax takes half of that.
What was it like crowd-wise? Obviously, Adelaide was born very, very quickly, and obviously the practice games we've seen, I don't think I've ever seen a practice game with Footy Park almost completely full. And then we've just talked, obviously, about your first game there against Hawthorn. Geez, the stars aligned very, very quickly for you guys.
They did. I mean, I'll take you back a step further, doing a pre-season with Port players and Glenelg players in the same change room. I mean, I can remember Cornsey had this thing that we had to do 100 hundreds because 110 hundreds because the Vicks had been reported we're doing 100.
100, so we had to do 10 more. Yeah,
and I can remember completing my 100 and looking over, to give somebody an exhausted hug, saying congratulations, and it was George Fiarchi, and we looked at each other and we said, oh no, I really can't do this. So we sort of, one of those awkward half, embraces. But that's what it was like. You're in the change rooms with all these players that, were your arch enemies. And so that was an interesting dynamic that I suppose the Adelaide Footy Club had to get over. But, we were training in tin sheds not training in tin sheds, but the change rooms were transportables and it was
of course the 100 hundreds
not ideal.
100 hundreds Rocket was just completing his warm-up by doing those too, the bloody lunatic in terms of that regard.
That's true, but I mean, we did play I think we played Essendon and a big crowd arrived and then we might have played Geelong. I think we played Geelong in a night game and then
Matty Kelly broke his wrist in that late in that game against Geelong.
He had a shocking run.
Yeah, which cost him. Yeah, he did that and then did his knee after that because he could seriously play as well.
He could. He was going to get it. He was going to be a starter.
Yeah.
He was seriously played. He had a wretched run with injuries. Another Norwood man. Yeah.
We've got to ask also, stepping back a little bit there with pre-season and Nigel Smart walking over the fire coals.
That was the next one.
So how did that all come about?
No, well, I'd been given the arse by then, so that was the second pre-season.
That's right. The second one,
yeah. So I after getting the flick from the Crows, I went and played maybe 7 or 8 games with Norwood, and then I did my ACL.
You did your ACL,
against Westies, and later that year when they were chopping up the squad, obviously, a 28-year-old or 29-year-old with an ACL who's, not getting, not working on it 40 hours a week like they do now with their knee jobs. I had no chance of going back, so I got the arse. So that Nigel Smart thing was the next year.
Fair call. It almost feels like it was in that first year because everything
second.
sort of happened very, very quickly.
And of course,
it was there was only that one AFL team there, and it got a lot of press. And Cornsey was looking for the edge, and
and then you went
strange thing.
Then you went back for after the knee. You played for Iggy's and ended up coaching Iggy's as well, mate.
Yeah. I later in that season when I did my knee, I think I missed the next year trying to get my knee right. Then came back the year after, played a few reserves games, knew my knee wasn't any good, and then went and played with Old Ignatians and hoping to play with all my mates, but they'd all left the year before, so I played with a group of young guys, and it was very enjoyable. Made the grand final, but got beaten by Hope Valley. I can remember that. Still hurts.
Yeah. You were certainly fanatically Iggy's. I may have coached against Tommy in one game, and Tommy was a bit more intense than I was, Pete. I know that might amaze you.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I was a bit more relaxed than Tommy on that. So, we had a bit of fun that day.
Yeah, I don't know what you were doing with that mob you were coaching, but I'll never forgive you.
We won that. We won, though.
Of course you won it.
Yeah, so it was a bit of fun.
Was coaching ever something that you wanted to do at a slightly higher level? Obviously, your heart was with St Ignatius being the old school or the old scholars. But did you want to go on with it?
He did get involved back at Norwood after that.
Yeah, I coached the under-19s for a couple of years. We had some guys play league footy. Nick Dygan was a good player from that year, and then I coached Carlton. The reserves. I had to go coaching the reserves, but it was the year when the team was decimated and the A grade actually finished bottom, and Macca unfortunately didn't survive. I don't think he and they went for that dickhead Dale Thomas, not Dale Thomas.
Lewis, Dale Lewis,
yeah, that was a good move.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more on that one, Tommy.
I think there's a few that are scratching their head on that decision for sure.
Yeah, well, I can remember getting a phone call from Dale Lewis saying that I was no longer required, and I said, well, that's fine, but there's a good crop of under-19s, and if you ever want, the ins and outs of the strengths of these young kids, I'm happy to sit down and go through them one by one. He said, no, that won't be necessary, mate. We don't need you. So, that was good.
Still waiting on that phone call.
Yeah, that's right. You should do a "Where are they now" on him.
Now there's something.
I don't think he'd want to talk to me, Tommy. I can be pretty sure of that. Yeah.
Now there's something that we missed along the way, and I've been dying to ask this one: the 1988 incident at the parade with Centrals. What are your
fair question to Tommy on that one.
What are your memories on that? Because I actually was sitting right in front of all of that, and I've got my memories, but. What about you as a player?
Tommy might have played a fair part in that too, actually.
Yeah, I did. I think. I mean, I knew we were going a bit rough, and what I remember is Centrals were going well, and they were confident, and they would have been confident because we were travelling pretty poorly, and we've come out second onto the ground and come up the race, and there's Centrals kicking goals at the southern end. And, so we've done a lap or two.
Sacrilegious.
Oh.
Yeah, a lap or two, and we've settled for a bit of a stretch out on the eastern wing, and the runner has come up to me because Macca must have.
Yeah, Macca was captain, so he got a coin toss. Yep.
Yeah, or he'd asked me after he'd asked Macca what he thought we should do. I said, there's only one thing we should do. We go down there and kick goals down there as well. So, so we all marched down there, and of course, being in the back lines, I was in the square with a few others, and there's 10 of their footies and 10 of ours, and 10 of their players and 10 of ours, and I can remember watching this ball being kicked by a Centrals player, and obviously knew it was a Bulldogs footy, and the big Richard Lounder, the man Mountain,
he was a big boy
under it, and I decided to give him everything I had. So I sort of took a bit of a run up and slammed into his back and took the back of his head and got the footy, and I think by the time I'd hit the ground, she was on. So,
did we end up keeping the footy, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I don't know what happened to the footy.
I mean,
But,
I just remember sitting there and Johnny Hall had somebody in a headlock and almost put him fair and square into the metal because back in the days, that was a metal signage all around the ground and you just hear these heads go crashing in.
And Tim McNeil trying to jump up and leap at somebody. It was like watching a little kid with gets lounder. And, of course, Gilbert McAdams started the game on the bench because of what happened. So, yeah, it was an interesting start to the game. And we did end up winning, Tom.
We ended up winning, and I think Curls claimed that his team were ambushed or something like that. But, I mean, everybody knows that Norwood kicked goals to that other end.
That's our end.
That changed the rules, I think, from the SANFL. So twice we've had the rules changed. No longer in grand finals can stand next to your opponent during the national anthem. And when you're playing at suburban grounds, you get allocated an end. So that doesn't happen anymore either.
Well, you can claim that you had an impact on South Australian footy in that regard, Tommy.
Yeah, they're taking all the fun out of it.
Are you thinking in one way it was good that Macca was actually tossing the coin at that stage? Because I think he could have completely done a bit of damage if he was there right from the get-go.
Yeah. Macca was he wasn't bad on the old boxing, so old wrestling. He might have ended up killing somebody. So it's probably best he had to run from the middle of the ground.
And then he just gathered you guys afterwards. What was the conversation about? Like, you've got them, or how did that all play out?
Well, I think it certainly got us up, and sort of 100% full speed ahead, and I think it put them back in their spot a little bit too. So, I think it definitely gave us the advantage. I mean, I don't know what the scores were. I think I might have left the ground halfway through the game. I think Craig Kelly ran through me and put me on a stretcher, so a bit of friendly fire. So, I can't remember the score line, but I think it certainly gave us the advantage, both mentally and probably physically, gave us an advantage as well.
One other quick one in terms of 84, the Barmy Choir. Tommy, wasn't that a fine?
I don't know about this.
I'll have to find it on YouTube for you. But wasn't that a fine ensemble of singing talent, singing Barmy? Yes.
Yeah, that was
East is east and west is west, and we all know that Barmy is best.
Barmy's best. Yeah, that was. I like that one. Michael Pratt, he had us. He was He was before his time, really. He had us singing in the market and working behind the counter at butcher shops and things like that. He was before his time, Pratt. He was great on promotions.
Yeah, that was funny. It was great memories that are packed. Absolutely packed upstairs. Let's remember upstairs.
I don't know
how many people were in there. Or how many were there supposedly legally, whatever. But in terms of the number that night, that was enormous.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a bit of a fire trap. We're lucky you didn't go up.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a pity the old Norwood, the club went, but I understand half the reasons why. But it's still a great pity that we no longer have.
It is a great pity. It's still never be the same.
But now that the Wolf Blass Centre's there, do you think that it was an important building block to getting to where they are right now?
It's just different.
I mean,
it's different.
You're
right.
All. I mean, the Wolf Blass is great, but it was, 20 years in the making almost between the demolition of Wood Street and the Wolf Blass. So, and they weren't, those sort of 90s, early 2000s weren't overly successful, but I mean, Nathan Bassett and they won premierships, didn't they?
Bass got
12, 13 and 14.
12, 13, 14. Yeah. Bass was fantastic in terms of the Norwood Juniors as well. He played a huge part in everything there. I've only got the highest praise of Nathan Bassett as a coach personally.
I'm glad he's back.
Yeah.
Well, and lucky that we've got him back, really.
Exactly right.
All right, Tommy. So best players played with and hardest opponents. The traditional way to close out.
And you can pick three or four of each.
Go in whatever direction you want.
Wow. Okay. I don't know. I mean, the Norwood team of the 80s, I don't know whether you could pick shit. Well, you can't split AC, Macca and Keith Thomas, so we'll put them down as one.
Yep.
And Kingo.
Bruce Winter was probably the best defender I played with. I mean, he was just, great reader of the footy, great hands, great kick. Made me look better than I was while he was there in the back pocket, no doubt about that. Neville, probably the best forward we had. I mean, I missed out on playing with Roger Woodcock, but Neville Roberts was as good as they come.
Yep.
I'm sure I've missed somebody out, and I'll have to apologise. I mean, Phil Gallagher there'll be never another full Phil Gallagher. So with his foot skills. Yeah. I mean, the best players played against, there was a lot. I mean, Scotty Hodges was very good. I mean, always dangerous and played in a very good side. Obviously, Stephen Kernahan, when he played at the Bays, we met on a few occasions before he went to Melbourne, and he was tough. But again, I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody. But most teams had great forwards. Rick Davies, even though he was only on one leg, he was fantastic.
His body use. He just used his ass at the right time,
Yeah, so strong. And, Roger Luders was great.
Yeah, Luders is a very good player.
Grenville was terrific. Rudy Mandamaker had days out. And, they were just every week you had no rest. You didn't, you knew that you'd have to be on your game. And some days I wasn't up to it, but I had good teammates around me, covered for me.
And Tommy, the most recent honour you've been awarded, go through it in terms of what that means to you, and also, I know you think that very fair the Warhurst family and that side of it. What an honour that is, and how much does that mean to you, mate? Yeah, well,
I initially, almost, was welling up a little bit when Paul D'Elio rang me. It stunned me a little bit because I'd never given it any thought. And it has been, how many years? 34 years since I played. And there had been other more recent players inducted. So I hadn't given it any thought. But, unfortunately, my old man, he's not around. But even my brothers and sisters think it was, are thrilled and, and think it's warranted. I've been telling people that, in a team full of Rolls Royces, you had to have a four-wheel drive somewhere along the line, and that was me.
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
And, I'm just forever grateful to Rick Neagle. I think Rick, old teammate, he's on the committee, and I think he along with Paul and Fanta and
the history committee
Taylor,
the history committee play a fair part, and then there's a recommendation, and others a board, and then it gets ratified. So it's quite a
involved process.
Yeah, big process to come up with the inductees, mate.
Yeah. I mean, just overwhelmed. Even talking about it now, it's pretty unbelievable when you think of, the cast of players that I played with, and to be acknowledged has been fantastic.
No, well deserved, Tommy.
My family, my grandkids, and all of that.
No, well deserved, mate.
Thank you.
Once again, Tommy, thank you for joining us tonight. We've enjoyed having a trip down memory lane, and congratulations, obviously, on your last little achievement there. But as a Nord supporter, thank you for your magnificent games, especially in 82 and 84.
No, greatly appreciated, Tom. Thanks, mate.
Thank you very much, lads. Thank you.
Thanks, Tommy.
See you, boys. Bye.
All right, we thank Tommy there for his time. Obviously, we split that interview up over a couple of weeks there, and some interesting comments there about Knuckles.
Have a listen, folks. Let's say that was one I didn't know about.
All right, let's move into Happy Days.
Happy Days.
All right, we kick off Happy Days today to happy birthday in 1995 to Jarman Impey.
Yeah, he's been quite steady at both clubs, probably a little bit better at Port, and then was good early. So, bit hot and cold, but, Tell you what, he's going to end up playing a couple hundred games, though.
Absolutely. Impey was drafted by Port Adelaide with their first selection, pick number 21 in the 2013 draft. He debuted against Carlton in the first round of 2014 season. Since making his debut, Impey used as a back pocket, shut down some small forwards. Very important role for a lot of clubs, isn't it?
And that's his best role.
Yep. During the 2017 trade period, Impey was traded to Hawthorn. He's now played 75 games with Port Adelaide for 34 goals. Moving to Hawthorn, he's played 113 games and 27 goals. Yeah, you're right. He's going to end up playing probably a couple of hundred games, which is...
That's without even looking. I thought, it'd be around there. So,
And that's why I thought I'd chuck him in there today, for sure. All right, let's move on to cricket. New Zealand, 1990. New Zealand cricketing legend Sir Richard Hadlee takes 5 for 53 in the third test against England at Edgbaston to end his test career with 431 wickets.
Appropriate, really, a veteran pace, because with Anderson playing his last test match starting tomorrow night, it's whether you can overtake Warney, I wouldn't think so, and I hope not. But look, Hadlee, fantastic bowler.
Yeah.
Different cat.
Yes.
He may have won a car at one stage, and normally that used to then get pulled and split.
Yep.
Not with Richard.
No. Went straight to the pool room, straight to the garage.
Yeah, different cat.
Fair call.
Yes.
All right, let's move on. 2017, English international footballer Wayne Rooney announces he will leave Manchester after 13 years to rejoin his original club, Everton.
Yeah, look, fantastic player. Look, he's had some... he's got the bullet a couple of times already in the managerial game.
Yes.
So he's on Portsmouth this year, so in the championship. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes there. He didn't last long at Derby, so...
Isn't it interesting that sometimes the best players don't make the best coaches?
Not always.
No. It's
So
funny
we'll
how
see
that
how he
happens.
goes.
All right, tennis obviously being very topical at the moment. In 1995, here's a couple of names that are well and truly synonymous with tennis. But women's tennis, German superstar Steffi Graf beats Arantxa Sanchez Vicario of Spain 4-6, 6-1, 7-5 for her 6th Wimbledon title.
Superstar. Loved Steffi.
Oh.
Jealous of Agassi as well, you bastard. Yeah.
I agree.
She super in both regards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that all...
legs of the law.
That all sort of came about after they both won Wimbledon and had to do the traditional Wimbledon first dance after the championships. So... and look, they've gone from strength to strength, haven't they?
Seriously,
Absolutely.
She was champion.
All right, and we're going to finish off on tennis in 2001. It was probably remiss of not to bring this one up a little bit earlier, but men's tennis, third-time runner-up Goran Ivanisevic wins his lone major title, beating Patrick Rafter of Australia in 5 sets, and it was 9-7 in the 5th.
Yeah, it certainly fluctuated back and forth. Australian side in the things with their baggy greens, which S. Warren didn't like, and that did contribute to a bit of the feud.
Yes.
So, yes. But look, 9-7 in the 5th. Toss the coin, could have gone.
Well, and just watching back over some of those highlights of the last 3 or 4 games of that set, it really could have gone either way, because Ivanisevic could have imploded and Pat Rafter could have gone on with it. And he composed himself and a couple of double faults at the end there. And so, it could have gone either way.
Yep.
All right, let's swing into the extra time big finish.
Extra time, big finish.
All right, let's kick off with cricket, mate. Last week we should have mentioned, it was remiss of us not to mention it, but this has been a year since the Carey Bairstow incident in the Ashes.
Yep, one of my 2 favourite ever dismissals in cricket. The other one was David Hookes running out the late Dean Jones, both obviously the late in both regards there, but running out Dino where he instructed. It was brilliant by Hooksy in South Australia.
Yes.
Maisie's confirmed that it was planned in that way. So all of a sudden, we were in the members, Jeff Wilson, myself and a few others were in the members, and all of a sudden, Hooksy's this bit of a weird position. What the hell's going on there? And in came Andrew Zesses, and Zess bowled it in the perfect spot.
Yep.
Absolutely nailed exactly where it should have been. Hooksy's taken it, pinged the stumps down, and Dean has Jonesy's walked past. He was ash white.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can say I've actually done 7 coaching clinics with Dino, and the best way to shut Dino up
is
was
to
just
talk
to
about
bring that up, and he hated it being
Absolutely.
mentioned. Yes.
Yes, it's unbelievable the scenes that happen from there, and now it's part of Ash's folklore, isn't it?
It is, and I still can't get over why Kerry's been crucified. I think it's been the carry on by England and Bairstow and that about it has been pathetic.
Yep. And it's going to continue to, it's like the Christmas gift that keeps giving. It's going to keep going.
Yeah, I don't know if Bairstow will get back in, though. He's been dropped from the England side, so we mightn't see him again, unfortunately.
But the crowds don't forget these things, so they generally go on with it.
Some songs, whatever.
There will be. All right, let's continue with cricket. Just one more there. The County Red Bull last wicket ball to tie, the most extraordinary chase in the 134-year history.
Morgan 592, and the keeper took his glove off, expecting, right, I'm going to try the run out.
Yes.
The guy's in the big outside edge, and he's caught it in his hand with a hand. It was a great catch as well. It was an incredible game.
Absolutely.
The beauty of cricket. It really was.
It was. First time that's happened.
It was incredible.
And if you haven't seen it, we might try and hunt it down and put it on the socials.
Yeah.
I had to watch it 2 or 3 times to just make sense of what was going on. Marnus Labuschagne had a big part to play in that as well. So thought we'd bring that one up there.
Yep.
We're going to leave the NRL for this week, mate. But Game 3 decider coming up next week. One player that's going to be missing is Latrell Mitchell. Yeah, serious foot injury. That's a big out for New South Wales.
Yeah, it is a big out.
Yep. All right, let's move on to MLB, mate. A name that we need to get used to, and you're going to hear a lot of him over the next couple of weeks, is Travis Bazzana.
Yes.
Get to know the name. It could be Australia's first number 1 draft pick in the upcoming draft on July 15th.
We're going to hear his name.
And it's a beauty, isn't it?
He could afford to sponsor the show too, what he'll get.
Maybe we'll try and get him on. I know I saw a bit of a rundown of which TV shows he was on. It was a pretty long list, so we might add our name to that list as well. We'll stick with baseball, a bit of a personal one for me. The Red Sox take another series against New York. Is it still one of the best rivalries in sports?
It is. Yeah. No, love that rivalry.
Yep. It's a bit like Norwood Port the Crows, Collingwood Essendon, Collingwood Carlton.
Yep.
It's certainly up there. All right, let's finish off with a couple of questions, mate. 4th of July, hot dog eating contest has been run and won, mate. How do you think you'd go? How many would you get down? Bit of fun to finish this off.
I think a few years ago would have been a bit better than nowadays. So, it's way at 50 odds way out of my league. I reckon maybe 5, but I reckon I'd even be struggling with that.
They even have like major championships, and it's a thing.
It is bizarre.
Would you call it a sport?
Personally, no.
No, fair call. It's
as different.
I said, little bit of fun to finish us off on, that's for sure. Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix after a long drought of 945 days. The 7-time champ is back on the winners list.
Yeah, but geez, a long time, isn't it? So he comes back.
And Piastri finishes 4th. Ricciardo finishes 13th. I fear for Ricciardo for next year now.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yep. And good to see Lewis Hamilton back on the winnings list.
He might be going for a drive with the West Coast coach. Yeah.
He could be. You might be right. And to finish us off, some crazy scenes in the Tour de France where riders are actually running up a dirt road. How could this happen in a professional event like this?
It's weird, isn't it? Crazy things do seem to happen in the Tour de France. We had the spectator jump out and the mass pile on.
That almost happens from year to year.
Yeah.
But a dirt road, though?
Yeah, weird.
Why would you even ride on a dirt road?
Got me, but yeah.
Crazy scenes. Anyway, just watching them basically grab their bike, lug it on the shoulder and run up the hill. And those cleats that they wear.
Oh, yeah.
They're hard to walk
Bloody
in.
hard. Yeah,
run.
Oh, weird.
Absolutely crazy.
Staggering.
All right, mate. We better wind it up there. We might leave the good, the bad, the ugly once again for this week. I think we've covered it pretty much as
thank you to Gary Creeves, Owens Casserly, and thank you obviously to Craig Steen with Steen Crash Repairs. And obviously we'd love to get some more sponsors on board.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, mate. And as per usual, we promise to do better next week.
Thanks, mate.
Thank you, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.